The jungle was not silent that night. It was breathing, alive, watching. The mist hung low, curling like a ghost around every tree trunk. The air was heavy, sticky, pressing down on the soldiers who crouched in the dark. There were no stars. No moon, only shadows moving where they shouldn't. And in that suffocating blackness, a SEAL team was trapped. Their circle was shrinking. The enemy was closing in from every side. Every second, the ring of gunfire drew tighter. Click. Another magazine, nearly empty. Sweaty hands reloaded, but even the soldiers knew the math. Bullets, running low. Backup, still hours away. Options, none. A desperate voice broke through the static of the radio. Anyone copy? We won't hold much longer. It wasn't just a report. It was a confession. A whisper that said, "This is it, we are finished." For a moment, silence answered, and then a calm voice, so calm it didn't belong in a battlefield. It cut through the fear like steel cutting glass. "I copy. Hold position. I'll handle the rest." Every SEAL froze. Who was that? Who could possibly say something so bold when even they, trained warriors, had no way out? The answer was a woman most of them barely noticed. Ellen Cross. 31 years old, compact frame, brown hair tied back, eyes that didn't just look at you, they looked through you. She had once been a legend, a master sniper, the kind Hove soldier whispered about in barracks and briefing rooms, the one who made impossible shots, shots no one else even dared to attempt. But that was 3 years ago. 3 long years since she had touched a battlefield. She had walked away, not because she was weak, not because she failed, but because she was tired, tired of holding life and death on the tip of her finger. And so she vanished. No records, no headlines. Her missions? Erased from files so deep that even governments pretended they never existed. Tonight she wasn't a fighter. She wasn't even listed on the combat roster. Her title was Technical Support. The young SEALs didn't respect her. They whispered, "When she wasn't around, I heard she used to be good. Now she just stares at screens. Why is she even here? That rifle would crush her." She never fought back. She never defended herself. On the outside, she stayed calm, unbothered, but inside, the words stung like hidden cuts. Because stepping away from the fight on your own terms is very different from being told you no longer matter. So Ellen sat alone, in a tent full of equipment she wasn't allowed to use, her hands carefully cleaning an old rifle scope. Not because it would be mounted on a rifle, but because it was all she had left of the person she used to be. Around her lay empty brass casings, shiny once, now dull, like relics from a life she barely recognized anymore. Every mission briefing came and went without her name. Every tactical discussion moved forward without her input. Every insertion order ended the same way. Cross stays behind. Reliable, that's what they called her. Reliable on comms. It was military language for, "We trust you, but you don't matter on the battlefield anymore." She told herself it was fine. She told herself she understood. 3 years away could make anyone rusty. But no matter how many times she repeated the logic, the truth still burned, because in her heart she wasn't done. And then the radio crackled. Not training chatter, not routine updates, real combat. "Base, this is Viper 6. Contact, multiple. Hostiles closing from 3 directions." Ellen froze. The words stabbed her like ice. Gunfire burst in the background, short, sharp, getting closer. She could hear the chaos, the panic. "Base, situation deteriorating. Request immediate backup." But the response from command was already hopeless. "Negative air support. Nearest ground units. 40 minutes out." 40 minutes? The SEALs. Wouldn't last 4. The voice on the radio came again, but softer this time, defeated, resigned. "We'll do our best." Ellen's chest tightened. She had heard that tone before. She knew what it meant 8 years ago. The Hindu Kush Mountains. Another night, just like this one. She could still smell the snow mixed with gunpowder. Still hear the screams. Still see the muzzle flashes blinking like stars in the dark. Her sergeant had begged for backup that never came. Her lieutenant had tried to keep men alive while bleeding from wounds too deep to survive. And Ellen herself. She had lain there in the cold, her rifle shaking in her hands as the enemy closed in. That night she had been forced to make shots that no human should have been able to make. Shots that went against physics, against wind, against fear. And yet she had made them, because the alternative was watching her brothers die. She opened her eyes. The jungle came back into focus. But the feeling was the same. Viper 6 was outnumbered, outflanked, running out of time, and no help was coming. The rational part of her mind whispered, "You're not authorized. You haven't fired a weapon in years. Your body isn't ready for this anymore. Stay put, do your job." But beneath that, something else spoke louder, something she hadn't felt in years. A cold, calm certainty. She knew what she had to do. Ellen walked toward the weapons locker. Her access card shook slightly as she swiped it. She knew opening this locker meant questions later, investigations, maybe even punishment. But what were consequences compared to the sound of men dying right now? The lock beeped, the case clicked open, and there it was, her M200 intervention rifle, the same weapon that had once been her partner. Custom built, balanced perfectly to her shoulder, a tool that had saved lives. Even if no one ever gave her the credit, she lifted it. The weight felt heavy, yet familiar. Like shaking hands with an old friend you thought you'd lost forever. Her fingers ran across the scope, chamber clear, bolt smooth, mounts secure. It was ready. The question was she? She thought back to the day she left the battlefield. Her colonel had begged her to stay. "You're the best we've ever had. Why quit now?" And she had answered, "Because pulling a trigger isn't just about skill. It's about deciding who gets to live another day, and I'm tired of making those decisions." But tonight, the decision had already been made for her. Viper 6 was out there, surrounded, counting down their last minutes, and she was the only one who could change the ending. Ellen strapped on her gear, rifle, ammunition, rangefinder, night vision, every movement smooth, practiced, automatic. She stepped outside. The night air hit her face like ice. The jungle loomed ahead, dark, thick, merciless. She glanced once at the base lights behind her, safe, comfortable, but useless, and then she turned away and walked into the shadows. The radio cracked again, desperation in every word. "We're down to our last magazines, casualties mounting. We won't last long." Ellen tightened her grip on the rifle. Her colonel's words echoed in her head. The weapon doesn't make the decision, the person behind it does, and tonight, Ellen Cross had already decided. Ellen moved through the jungle like she was born from it. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled, every sound swallowed by the night. She had done this before, too many times, but never after 3 years away. The jungle resisted her. At every turn, thick vines grabbed at her boots, branches clawed at her pack, loose stones shifted under her steps. But Ellen wasn't fighting the jungle. She respected it. She flowed with it. Because she knew the truth. Nature isn't your enemy, it's just indifferent. And in that indifference you either adapt or you die. Her destination wasn't random. She had memorized the tactical display. Back at base, enemy forces were closing in from 3 sides, classic encirclement. A slow squeeze designed to crush Viper 6 into silence. But their perfect strategy had one weakness, high ground. If she could reach an elevated position behind them, their advantage would turn into their downfall. But time was against her. The SEAL team had maybe 20 minutes left. That meant she had less than 10 to get into position. Her lungs burned, her legs ached from years behind a desk. But she kept moving, because every step she took wasn't just her survival, it was theirs. At last she found it, a rocky outcropping overlooking the valley. It offered concealment, cover, and a clear line of sight. Perfect. Except for one problem. To reach it, she would have to climb 20 meters of jagged rock, vertical, slippery, dangerous, and she was carrying full combat gear. For a moment, doubt whispered in her ear. "You're not 20 anymore. Your body isn't ready." She silenced. It one deep breath, one pull upward, and the climb began. Her fingers gripped tiny cracks in the stone. Her boots searched for holes barely wide enough for a toe. Every movement had to be perfect. One mistake meant a fall she wouldn't survive. Her muscles screamed. Sweat burned her eyes. But Ellen climbed higher, not because she believed she could, but because she knew she must. When her hands finally pulled her onto the ledge, her chest heaved. Her arms trembled, but her mind sharpened. She checked her watch. Barely 10 minutes left before Viper 6 would collapse. No more hesitation, no more doubt. Ellen dropped to the ground, unpacked her rifle, laid prone against the stone, and then she looked through her scope. The world transformed. Through the glass, the chaos below became clear. 3 enemy squads, closing in, coordinated, ruthless. The SEALs were fighting back with everything they had. But Ellen could see it. Their circle was shrinking step by step. She adjusted her scope, calibrated for range, wind, valley, air currents. The numbers came back to her like an old song. She hadn't forgotten. Her body hadn't forgotten. And then she saw him, the enemy leader, barking orders, directing the assault from cover 600 meters out. If he lived, the SEALs died. If he fell, the plan unraveled. Her finger rested on the trigger. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat matched the rhythm she knew by memory. For one moment, the jungle fell silent. And Ellen Cross became the weapon. She exhaled, squeezed. The A. Shot cracked like thunder, and 600 meters away the leader dropped just like that. Their coordination snapped. She didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She just worked the bolt. Next target, a machine gun nest pinning the SEALs down. Range, 800 meters. Wind, shifting. She waited, watched the rhythm of the gunner's fire. Learned his timing, and then crack. The gunner's weapon fell silent. The SEALs immediately moved, seizing better ground. The radio hissed. "Unknown sniper, this is Viper 6. Who's providing fire support?" Ellen keyed her mic. "Maintain position, I'll handle overwatch." No name, no introduction. The only proof of who she was the silence her shots created. She cycled the bolt again. Target after target. A squad leader here, a flanker there, each shot precise, each shot deadly, each shot pulling the SEALs one step back from death. But the enemy wasn't stupid. 2 soldiers had spotted the general direction of her fire. They were moving fast. Flanking her, Ellen didn't panic. She didn't run. Instead, she did something they would never expect. She set her rifle down, drew her combat knife, and disappeared into the shadows of the rocks. The first soldier never saw her coming. One strike. Silent. His body crumpled without a sound. The second arrived seconds later, looking for his partner. Instead, he found Ellen waiting. He raised his weapon. But she was faster. Her blade flashed once, and the jungle swallowed his last breath. By the time Ellen returned to her rifle, less than 8 minutes had passed since her first shot. But the battlefield had changed completely. The SEALs were holding. The enemy was breaking, and Ellen Cross, the ghost they had dismissed, the woman they had overlooked, was the reason. She scanned the valley one last time. Silence. No muzzle flashes. No coordinated movement. The fight was over. She pressed her radio. "Viper 6. Area secure. Extract." Immediately. "Copy, unknown sniper. Outstanding work. Can you identify yourself for the report?" Ellen smirked in the darkness. "Negative. Some ghosts prefer to remain invisible." And with that, she began packing her rifle. Her job was done. Her name would never be spoken, but lives had been saved because sometimes true heroes work best in the shadows. By the time Viper 6 reached the extraction point, word had already spread. Not official word, not written in any report, but whispered, passed from one soldier to another. Someone, some ghost, had saved them. Back at base, Ellen moved like nothing had happened. She slipped through the perimeter just as the guard shift changed. No one noticed, no one questioned. She stored her rifle, cleaned every piece, restored it to the exact condition it had been in when the locker opened, as if it had never left. Her hands. By morning, Ellen was sitting at her station, eyes fixed on a computer screen, calm, Ordinary, invisible, but inside. Her heart still echoed with the recoil of every shot. The inevitable came quickly. An officer entered. Lieutenant, Commander Sarah Walsh, leader of Viper 6. Her uniform still carried the stains of last night's fight. Her face tired but alive. Alive because of someone else. She approached Ellen. "Cross, a moment of your time." Ellen turned, her expression steady. "Of course, ma'am." Walsh studied her face, measured every line, the way only a commander, who had learned to read men under fire, could. Finally, Walsh spoke. "Last night we were cornered, outnumbered, and then someone intervened. A sniper. Professional, lethal, exact." Ellen tilted her head, playing the part of the puzzled support officer. "Is that so, ma'am? I monitored the radio traffic. Sounded intense." Walsh didn't blink. Her hand reached into her pocket. She pulled out a brass casing. Not ordinary ammunition, custom, match grade. She placed it on Ellen's desk. "My team found this at the firing position." Ellen glanced at it, didn't touch it, didn't react. "Professional gear," she said softly. "Whoever helped you must have been good." Walsh leaned in closer. "Not just good, experienced, precise. This wasn't standard issue. This was someone who knew exactly what they were doing." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Neither woman moved, neither blinked. Finally, Walsh's voice softened. "I'm not here to interrogate you. I'm here to thank you. Whoever did this saved 4 lives, including mine." Something shifted in her tone. It wasn't military. It wasn't official. It was personal. "And I want that person to know," she continued, "that their courage won't be forgotten. Even if their name never appears in a report." Ellen held her gaze. Still silent. Still the ghost. Walsh smiled faintly. "Some actions go beyond authorization. Some decisions belong only to those who understand that rules serve missions, not the other way around." She turned to leave, but at the door she paused. "Cross, I'm recommending you for renewed combat certification." Ellen's brow tightened. "Ma'am, I'm not sure—" "It's not a request," Walsh cut her off. "It's recognition." And then she walked away. The room felt heavier after she left. Ellen stared at the casing still sitting on her desk. Her reflection gleamed faintly in its brass surface. Recognition, validation, a reminder. She had tried to step away, to disappear into silence. But the battlefield had found her again. Her computer chimed. A new message. Assignment modification. "Cross Ellen, Advanced Combat Certification Review, Priority Status." She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she deleted the message, as if ignoring it could make it vanish. But deep down she knew. Some things don't wait for permission. Some things follow you until you face them again. 1 week later, Ellen's name appeared on deployment rosters. No explanation, no announcement. She was simply there, back on active status. The same young SEALs who once mocked her now gave small nods of respect when she passed. No one said it out loud, no one dared, but in their eyes she saw it. They knew, or at least they suspected. She didn't confirm, she didn't deny. She simply carried on, quiet, professional, invisible, but no longer forgotten. During an inspection, Sergeant Rodriguez, one of her loudest critics, approached her. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "I owe you an apology. I made assumptions. I was wrong." Ellen continued cleaning her rifle, her hands steady, her voice calm. "No apology necessary, Sergeant. Assumptions are natural when you don't have the full story." Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded. "In this line of work, appearances can be deceiving." Ellen finally looked up, her eyes steady. "Sometimes the most dangerous operators are the ones nobody notices, until it's too late." Rodriguez swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am. I'll remember that." And he walked away, leaving Ellen alone again. But this time she wasn't invisible. Not anymore. The sun dipped low over the mountains. Golden light touched the ridges. The same ridges where death had nearly claimed Viper. Ellen stood alone at the shooting range. Her rifle rested across her arms, the same weapon that had saved lives, and kept her own humanity on edge. She lifted the scope, gazing through the fading light. Glass, metal, precision engineering, but powerless on its own. The truth was simple. The scope never made the decision. The rifle never chose the target. It was always the person behind it. And Ellen Cross had chosen. She thought of the young soldiers, the ones who once mocked her, the ones who now looked at her differently. They respected her, but they didn't know the weight she carried, the weight of every life she had saved and every life she had ended. She thought of commanders, of rules, of protocols that said, "Wait for orders." But she knew better. Sometimes waiting meant death. Sometimes the rule book wasn't enough. Sometimes the only thing that mattered was courage. As the sky darkened, Ellen began disassembling her rifle, piece by piece, each part fitting perfectly with the others. And she realized teams were just the same. Every soldier has every skill and a piece of something greater. When they worked together, the sum was stronger than the parts. That was why she had returned, not for medals, not for recognition, but because she was a piece of that greater whole, a piece that still mattered. Later that night, Sergeant Rodriguez's words echoed in her mind. Appearances can be deceiving. He was right. The most dangerous people, the most powerful protectors, were often the ones nobody noticed, not until it was too late, and that was okay, because true strength doesn't live in the spotlight. It lives in the shadows. It lives in the choices you make when no one is watching. Ellen knew the world would never know her name. Her story wouldn't be told in history books. Her victories wouldn't be paraded in ceremonies. But that was never the point. Some guardians wore medals, others wore silence. Both mattered, both were necessary, and Ellen Cross preferred the darkness. So the next time you hear silence in the night, the next time you wonder who stands watch while you sleep, remember this: some heroes shine in daylight, but the ones in the shadows, they're the reason daylight ever comes.